Happy 5th.
Did everybody have a good night last night?
Yes, Lord.
Fingers and toes intact?
Yes.
Awesome. That's a blessing. Right? So, we've been studying the 5 love languages. And I hope that they've helped you as much as they've helped me.
Yeah, Lord.
Maya Angelou said, my great hope is to laugh as much as I cry. To get my work done, and to try to love somebody and have the courage to accept the love in return. It's hard to love, isn't it?
Yes.
It makes us vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that she was talking about not only romantic love, but friendship love,
Yes.
amen, church family love,
Yes.
everybody love, work
Yes.
love,
Yes.
people on the street love. I think
Yes.
she was talking about everybody. But Pastor Jason said something the other night that made me think. We often withhold love as a form of punishment, don't we?
Mm.
And you've all done it. The silent treatment, that's what it is. It's when you puff all up. I'm not talking to you because you may do that.
Tootie wouldn't do it.
That's what that is. We've all done it.
Not Tootie.
So, all that does is destroy our trust. Tootie, did you do that?
No. Not Tootie. Not Tootie.
So all that does is destroy our trust. As long as I act right, you're going to love me. But the first time I screw up, you're gonna take it back. Our parents did. Everybody did. So, as a result of our own hurts and habits and hang-ups, I think that sometimes we try to love people in our love language, which may not be theirs. Jason preached my whole sermon before I got up here. Thanks, Jason. But to show people love, we have to speak in their language, and they have to speak in ours.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
So we've been talking about the 5 love languages, and Gary Chapman says we speak and understand our native language. We feel most comfortable speaking that language. The more we use a secondary language, the more comfortable we become conversing in it. If we speak only our primary language and encounter someone else who speaks only his or her primary language, which is different from ours, our communication will be limited. We must rely on pointing, grunting, drawing pictures, or acting out our ideas. We can communicate, but it's awkward. Okay, that was awkward. What he's trying to say is, you can learn a new language. If, for example, if somebody plopped me down in Taiwan or France or somewhere where I didn't speak the language, you can bet that I'm going to learn it in a hurry so that I can get something to eat.
Yes.
And I can find a place to sleep.
Yes.
And so the more I talk to these people about my needs and where I'm going to be, and some of us just got back from an extended visit in Italy, so I'm sure they can But the more we speak someone else's language, the easier it becomes. And I think that love languages are the same. When I learn your love language and I know that that's how you relate, then I can talk to you easier.
Yes.
So real briefly, I'm going to go over the first 4, and then I'm going to talk about the last one. Technology provider. Did you like that transition? I just learned that. The first one is words of affirmation. You, wow. Doesn't it feel good to have somebody affirm you?
Hallelujah.
Doesn't it feel good when somebody says, I think you're doing a great job. I saw what you did that was good.
Yes.
You matter. Gigi told us about an experience she had during Pride where she met eyes with a kid, and he was looking at her, and she was holding a sign that said, you're worthy. And she mouthed at him, and she said, you're worthy. And he said, thank you. That meant something to him. It meant something to her. So they both walked away feeling good. Receiving gifts. You see in front of you a Louis Vuitton purse. Just saying. Our pastor wants one. That's what looks like. Should you choose to get any of the other pastors one, that's to the left. Little acts of service make people feel good. I have a little lady that worked at my church, and she was just tiny and frail and always seemed to screw stuff up, and it wasn't her fault. She's a wonderful little person. And so I always went out of my way to help her. And one day I said, oh, I love your necklace, it's so pretty. And she took it off her neck and she gave it to me. And this is it. Isn't it so pretty?
Yes.
It's
So, I
sparkling.
mean, it was an act of service. It was something she did out of love for me. Now, that's not my primary love language, but I sure didn't tell her no. Quality time. We talked about quality time. In fact, I preached on that one. And we talked about how giving people your your focused attention, focusing directly on that person. And when they're on their phone or they're doing whatever they do, then what happens? You're their task. I don't want to be a task. I want you to talk to me because you like talking to me.
Yes.
Amen.
That's my number one, by the way.
Yes, Lord.
Well, actually, it's my number two. Words of affirmation, number one. Acts of service. Doing things even if you don't like them, that you know the other person loves. Now, if you're wondering where we are here, this would be the Women's Basketball Hall of Fame in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Wow.
And that would be my wife, thoroughly enjoying herself. There are no pictures of me.
You're behind the camera.
And there is a reason for that. It was an act of service on my part. So today, we're going to cover the final love language, physical touch. Margaret Atwood says, touch comes before sight, before speech. It is the first language and the last, and it always tells the truth. A gentle touch versus a slap in the face. How truthful is that? Okay?
Yes.
Sometimes I think physical touch may be the most important. It's an essential human need, and it's seen in newborn babies. Okay? And if you put yourself in a newborn baby's place, you've been warm and cozy all this time, hearing your mama's heartbeat right next to you, and then all of a sudden you're thrust out, and it's bright and it's cold, and where's the heartbeat, and I'm not liking this, and that's why they cry. It's not because they spank them, it's because they're mad. And so when you put a baby on a mama's breast, and they can hear that heartbeat, it starts to soothe them, calm them down. And so even later, when they're tested and they do all the stuff that they do to them, I mean after our test, and they're not as upset. They don't cry as much. They're more able to adapt to life outside the womb. So that's important. Is there a way to go back on this? Oh, that. Gary Chapman says on page 13, almost instinctively in a time of crisis, we hug one another. Why do we do that? Because physical touch is a powerful communicator of love. In a time of crisis, more than anything, we need to feel loved. Okay, this is important right here. We cannot always change events, but we can survive if we feel loved.
Amen.
We cannot always change events, but we can survive if we feel loved.
Hallelujah.
It gives us hope. How many times have you known someone when the hurt was just so deep, and it may have been you, when the hurt was just so deep there just weren't any words? And I had a friend who lost her 33-year-old son to asthma. And what do you say to somebody like that? 33 years old. All I could do was just hold out my arms to her because there weren't any words. So when you offer your arms, you offer comfort
Yes.
to people.
Yes.
And when they step into those arms, they feel comfort.
Yes.
I mean, you feel it all the way down to where the words are absent. Do you understand what I mean?
Yes.
To that place where, number one, nobody wants to go. But with your arms around them, they feel, I'm here for you. I love you. I care about you.
Yes.
And I'm not going anywhere.
Yes.
So sometimes that's what we have to do. There's other ways to communicate by touch. And Most of them are sports related. This is kind of funny. High fives, dog piles, men slap each other on the butt. You know, that's, they do that chest bump thing, testosterone. Women jump on each other. If you've been watching the World Cup, you've been seeing a lot of ladies hopping all over each other. And dog piling. I always felt sorry for the person on the bottom, too. Huh? A handshake conveys a friendly hello. How are you? I'm glad to see you. You're putting yourself out there to them.
Yes.
You know, when you reach out and you shake somebody's hand, or they put their arm around your shoulder, it releases two neurological chemicals called oxytocin and serotonin. And no, they're not sold on the street. But at the same time, they inhibit stress hormones. So just touching somebody can change their world, especially if it's their love language. But the whole thing is we're happy. We're showing each other we're happy without words, right?
Yes.
They did a study at the University of Illinois. It was conducted by Michael Krause. And he tracked physical contact between players from the beginning of the season to the end. And interestingly enough, the ones that were the most physical in the beginning of the season were more successful individually and as a team towards the end. Now, why do you suppose that is? Because I don't have time to stop in the middle of the game and go, man, that was an awesome play. You did really good. I'm so proud of you. Because what happens? You don't have time to go, oh, bad call from the ref. So a fist bump or a high five or a slap on the butt, way to go. That tells them what they need to know. And that physical touch lowers the stress hormone. So of course, they're better at the end. Tudu was real happy when I told her that. They'll have a real touchy-feely team now. Likewise, there are bad touches. Folks, bad touches do not have to be sexual in nature.
Amen.
Bad touches are bad touches, period. If it
Yes.
makes you uncomfortable, it is a bad touch. So read people's body language. See kind of where they're at. Because if you're coming in like a 747 and your landing gear's out and you're fitting to land on them and they're backing up and trying to get away from you, they're telling you, get out of my airspace. Leave me alone. Try and respect that.
Yes.
Because I promise you, if you land anyway, you'll never get the opportunity to talk to them again.
Amen.
Because they're going to run. They'll probably avoid you the next time they see you, and really, I couldn't blame them. And then there's the kissers, the casual kissers. There's those at home right in for your lips. There's the cheek kissers, and then there's the air kissers. I never figured that one out. And then there's the no kissers. Don't even make the sound, because you'll creep them out. So try to read people. Try to make sure that they're comfortable around you. Try and read their body language. Physical touch can be just as traumatizing as it is helpful if we're not careful, right? So, and listen, this is important. If you know someone has been hurt by an inappropriate touch, be careful. Even if you don't know, be casual. Be careful, proceed with caution. But when it's appropriate, I honestly feel like it's the most giving form of love language to touch someone. I would hate to be without touch. Jesus was a toucher. Jesus touched to heal, to love,
Yes.
to comfort.
Yes.
He wasn't afraid of touch. He wasn't afraid of touching anybody or anything. A leper asked him to please heal me. The Bible talks of Jesus healing him in Matthew 8. As Jesus came down the mountain, he was followed by large crowds. Suddenly, a man with leprosy came and knelt in front of Jesus. He said, Lord, you have the power to make me well if only you wanted to. Jesus put his hand on the man, touched him, put his hand on the man and said, I want to. Now you are well. And at once the man's leprosy disappeared.
Amen.
Okay, so what he did, now you might want to close your eyes if you're squeamish. You know, we read about leprosy in the Bible. We don't really know what it is, do we? We know it's some yucky skin thing, you know, that's curable now. So we didn't. But in that day, put yourself in that time, it was not curable. This is what it looked like. People's fingers and toes would literally rot and fall off. Their skin lesions oozed, and I'm sure probably a little kind of an unpleasant smell. Jesus didn't hesitate to touch those people because he loved them. And he wanted to show them he loved them. Now that's a big thing, to touch somebody like that. We talked about a woman considered unclean in our Sunday morning series, God Heals. So if you've heard this story before, okay, Sheree, sorry. She's a good example of the power of touch. Mark 5:25 says, a woman who had had a hemorrhage for 12 years and had endured much at the hands of many physicians and had spent all that she had and was not helped at all, but rather had grown worse. After hearing about Jesus, she came up in the crowd behind him and touched his cloak. For she thought, if I just touch his garments, I'll get well. Immediately, the flow of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of her affliction. Immediately, Jesus, perceiving in himself that the power proceeding from him had gone forth, turned around in the crowd and said, who touched my garments? And his disciples said to him, you see the crowd pressing in on us? And you say, who touched me? And he looked around to see the woman, aware of who had done this. But the woman, fearing and trembling, aware of what had happened to her, came and fell down before him and told him the whole truth. And he said to her, daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your affliction.
Amen.
Okay, so there's a lot going on here on many, many levels. This lady, to put it bluntly, this lady had a 12-year period. Okay, so girls, think about that, for starters. A 12-year period. She'd spent all her money, she'd gone everywhere, she'd done everything to try and find some relief. Well, not to mention the fact that she felt so bad. The Jewish laws in Jesus' time were very specific about menstruation. Did that, as they call it. A woman is considered unclean for those 7 days, and then to be purified 7 days afterwards. So husbands and wives might only spend a half a month together. Maybe in some cases that was a good thing, I don't know. Levitical restrictions are very specific, and if you ever wanted to look this up, it's in Leviticus 15, 19 through 33. They rendered her ritually unclean, and likewise, anyone or anything that she might touch was also unclean. That made her an exile among her own people. For 12 years, no one touched this woman. Can you imagine going 12 years without a human being's touch? Or if somebody accidentally touched you, then they were like, because you were unclean, and then they had to go home, take a bath, and people didn't want to meet you in the eyes because you're unclean. It was even worse after childbirth. After childbirth, it was several weeks to months, depending on the sex of the baby. So nobody could touch the bed. Nobody could touch the chair where they sat. So this kind of ostracizing has got to be unbelievably hard on you mentally, right? So you can understand her desperation after 12 years of this. She sees Jesus and she's like, I got nothing to lose, folks. I got nothing to, this is my last hope. I've spent my money. I've gone to every doctor there is. Nobody will touch me. I'm miserable. This is my last hope. And she sees Jesus go by and she reaches out and she gets him. She gets his hand. And what happens? She's healed immediately. But Jesus feels the power leaving him. And so he stops. Now it's dead silence. Okay, picture yourself as this woman. You're thinking, yikes. It just made the Messiah unclean. Uh-oh. And so he's saying, who did this? Who did this? And his disciples think he's nuts. You got 200 people around here and you're asking who touched you? But he knew. He knew the power left him somehow. And so she knows that he knows. So she fesses up, it was me. Thought if I just touched her, And you see he embraces her. It's the first embrace that she's had likely in 12 years. So if that was the power of her love language, what would that have meant to her? Right? So to wrap it up, touch has power. Out of all the love languages, I think touch has power. Jesus healed with his touch, and we can heal with our touch too.
Amen.
We can heal with our touch.
Yes, Lord.
Used appropriately, touch can boost mood, convey unspoken messages, encourage, console, reduce stress,
Yes, Jesus.
lessen symptoms of depression. The power of touch works miracles all by itself, with the Lord's help, of course.
Amen.
So I'm urging you make sure everybody knows your love language and find out as many love languages of people that are close to you as you can.
Yes.
I think that you'll find that everything will change. You'll be able to talk to people who before you just wanted to gouge their eyes out. And there's those people. I used to talk about the lady in Sunday school. If I had known her love language, I might still have the same job. But take the time to find out everybody's love languages. Not just your spouse, your coworkers, your friends, your family. Try and apply what you've learned. Watch your relationships grow and flourish. They'll change people, I'm telling you.
Amen.
Be trusting. Be vulnerable. Put your past behind you. Be courageous. Be the heroes that I know you are. Let's go to God in prayer. Father, I thank you for every single person in this sanctuary today. I hope that someone got the word that they needed to hear from you. I pray that you give us travel mercies as we leave. I pray that you bless the new people that got their little mosaic today. I pray that you bless the people that we're going to baptize later.
Yes.
Father, I thank you for the freedom to worship here. I thank you for the freedom to be who we are, to marry, to love, to learn each other's love languages. I thank you for allowing us to worship you freely and openly. And I ask, Father, that everybody here have a wonderful week.
Yes.
And that they be the heroes. In Christ's name I pray.